Paul Pantone kicking off our Friday afternoon session at Extraordinary Technology 2011. And Paul is an extraordinary inventor. He has been inventing all his life with special inspiration coming from time to time. With the GEET project, he was specifically encouraged by Steve Ellsworth to expand on it and to really make it happen. So he's worked on that quite a bit, but he has a lot of other inventions as well. He went through tremendous adversity to be here today with us. Let's welcome Paul Pantone.
Thank you. There were many people that were supposed to be here that aren't going to make it due to other circumstances that are not within our control. But we will continue with a really good short show today. We will be running engines out in the parking lot here in just a little while. I'll be answering any and all questions you have, well, within reason. We don't want to hand you all of the knowledge too quickly. We've had scientists from around the world come in to challenge us at saying it didn't work. One was Dr. Su years ago. He didn't tell me he was a nuclear physicist retired from Beijing. But after 3 days of our tearing engines apart off tractors, cars, Suburbans, our Ford Pinto, 3 days of tearing them apart and putting them back together, my sister-in-law walked into the room just as we were saying our goodbyes, and she said, "By the way, Mr. Su, what do you do for a living?" And that's when he smiled and he said, "I'm a retired nuclear physicist." And I lit up. I said, "Really? Well, professionally speaking, what can you tell me about my invention?" He said, "Well, for 25 years we make 7-mile circle in the ground for billions of dollars, and what you do for 25 cents replaces what we do for billions. But the big difference is not the price. The big difference is yours works." Well, made me feel like $1 million that day, because he handed me that little tiny 25-cent rod and tried to convince me then that this was an atomic accelerator. Yeah, right. But back then I didn't know that there were 181 discoveries I was about to make that need to be written in science books. And I've been putting together a training manual with all the different pictures of all these different discoveries, which we use in the classroom. We teach each and every part of it. We tell people why it works, and how to replicate it. An invention isn't worth anything if you can't replicate it. If you can't teach people how it works, it makes it more difficult. Many of the inventors I've met over the last 35 years have come to me and said, "Look what I got." And I'll say, "Well, how does it work?" "I don't know." Well, okay, that's what I used to say 30 years ago. When scientists would say, "How did it work?" I'd point and say, "There it is. The fuel goes in here. No exhaust goes out there. That's how it works." They didn't buy it. It took years before one scientist after another would come to me and say, "I think this is happening," and we test. There's something there. But we're misidentifying it because we wanted to use labels that were already there of things that had already been discovered, and it really isn't something that's already been discovered. It is new and unique. When you hand somebody a rod like I have there, and you say there's a north at the top end of it when you check it with a compass, and there's a south at the bottom end of it, they smile and shake their head. Then when you turn the rod over, I don't know if it'll show up on this, we'll give it a try, but when you turn it, oh, I left my compasses at the table. But you can come by the table, but north will be up here, south will be here. When you turn the rod over, north will be here, south will be here. No matter how many times you turn the rod over, north is always up. Up until 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I get a call from one of my dealers in North Carolina, and he says, "Paul, I've got a problem. The fields are reversed." I said, "What do you mean they're reversed?" He said, "Well, south is up and north is down." I said, "Well, biblically speaking, that can't happen." I mean, that was where I got the idea that north was up, was from the Bible. Ezekiel, Isaiah, many places throughout all the different Bibles I've read, they refer to north. The heavens are to the north, the skies are to the north. The chariot came from the north. Well, if north isn't up anymore, what happened? The fluke that happened is we have a pole shift occurring right now, which I've been teaching people for about 18 years this was going to happen. all of a sudden we realize that as the pole shift is occurring, it's causing anomalies in certain areas that only last for a short time. Now, down by Bolivia, about 2 weeks ago, the same time as my dealer said his field flipped, there was a whirlpool out in the ocean pulling ships and debris into it that was spinning the wrong direction for the southern hemisphere. I looked at it, and I went back after he told me his rods were backwards, and I looked at it, and it is spinning backwards for the southern hemisphere. Didn't make sense to me. Following day, after he sent me video clips, he calls up and he said, "Paul, the field's reversed again. They're back to normal." Well, what that helped me to understand, which I've been waiting for 18 years, what's going to happen when the poles flip. Will GEET continue to work? I believe it will. But now I already know. Yes, it does. It just flips the field. GEET keeps working. At that point, when we have our poles flipped, we're going to have south up and north down. But if it doesn't stop running and it continues to run and it creates plasma, we're in good shape. I started to mention earlier that one of the doctors, Dr. Grant Wood, who came to me with a book that he had paid $250, $300 for, it had to be translated from Russian into English, was all about the conference in 1983 by Bateman and group. They said that plasma was finally accepted, but it had to be pushed and put under pressure to be created. Well, the same month that they were saying it was a new state of matter, I already built one. It works, only I was doing it backwards. They were lucky if they could get a 10% loss in energy, but they could produce plasma. I was getting 2, 3, 4 times my mileage, except on my Cadillac. There I was running on water, which was against the law, so I took it off and got rid of it. But it has kept me alive now for the last 30 years, very well. When they detained me 3 years ago, the only thing they wanted me to do, or when I got out 2.5 years ago, they had already had me for 3.5 years, they wanted me to sign my patent over to them, the state of Utah. The big question I've had is every time somebody's come after me trying to get control of the company, they come up with this, "It doesn't work. He is delusional." Well, if it doesn't work, why on earth do you want my patent? Come on. Come up with a line better than "it doesn't work." Especially when we've got about 10,000 people around the world with videos up in every language of people who run engines on whatever they put in the fuel tank. Now, just for giggles here, a show of hands, how many people in here have built a GEET engine? Well, I still get people with the amount of viewers there on the websites around the world. I still get every day people saying, "I just heard about this. How come I've never heard about this before?" Well, because when I go to TV stations and say, "Would you like to see how to reduce emissions right now?" Do you want to see how to get better mileage right now? Why not? We're not allowed to show that on TV. It was about 1998. One of the guys working with me came to me and he said, "You want to be on TV today?" I said, "Yeah, but they won't put us on TV." "You sure they will?" So he walked down the hallway to the payphone and he sat down with the phone book opened up and he called 4 or 5 TV stations. He said, "Hey, I'm down here at the Sheridan Inn in Colorado Springs. There's this crazy guy out here. He's running engines on pickle juice." "Yeah, you got to see it. It's out beside the building." And he hung up. Well, he didn't tell me what he was doing, and I was sitting at my booth. All of a sudden, there's people running in. They're going, "Are you Paul Pantone?" "Yeah, we got everything being set up outside here. We've got translators, blah, 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 satellites out there. You're going live in about 10 minutes. Okay. So I come out, and here's all these TV stations with their booms up in the air. And I'm going, how the heck did he pull it off? Well, the guys come over and they start wiring me up for sound, and they said, "Hey, you're going to be interviewed by so-and-so, and he wants to do this interview." And I said, "Great, but we want to see it run on pickle juice." I said, "What?" "Give me a minute." So I ran back in to the restaurant. Yeah, it was funny. I go in there, little girl sitting, can I help you? Would you like a table for two? No, I just need a glass of pickle juice to go. She looked really scared. She, just a minute. She goes over and she picks up the phone. And all of a sudden you hear the kitchen door open up and the cook leaning out. Tell him to go over to the deli, that's where we get our pickles. They have pickle juice in the deli. So I run over to the deli. Line of people, it's almost noon. And I, excuse me, this is really important, can I cut to the, all I want is a glass of pickle juice to go. Every head in the place is turned towards me, like I'm out there. And I'm serious, I need a glass of pickle juice to go. Yeah, go ahead. So I get up to the front of the line, the girl's looking at me going, are you serious? I said, yeah. She said, do you want sweet or dill? I was like, crud, I didn't think of that. One of each. She's okay. So she gets 2 cups and goes over there and she starts pouring the juice. She's under one condition. I said, what's that? She said, don't drink it in here. I said, I promise I won't drink it in here. So she brings them over. She says, no charge. Just please do not drink them in here. So I take off out the door, and there's a huge screen TV right across in the bar area from the little deli. And as I'm running out the door, and here he comes now, he's got the pickle juice with him, and so-and-so ran in with him so we can verify that was pickle juice. I said, do we want sweet or dill? We're having fun. We pour in the dill juice here and put the lid on it. We fire the engine up. 0 emissions, nice, clean, fresh air. We're holding handkerchiefs over the end of it, passing it out into the audience. The jokes about pickles were flying. In the meantime, inside in the bar, they're hollering, hey, that guy that was just in here, he's live on TV. Well, the whole deli empties out into the bar. About 5 minutes later, here come about 200 people from the bar and the deli all out to where we're filming. Because they realize this is real, there's cameras on the site. Well, it was fun. It got me on TV, and I found out how you cut past their BS of, we don't want to talk about technology. They're willing to listen to fun fuel. All you got to do is say, hey, you want to see it run on Mountain Dew? No, I don't like degrading myself to be a dog and pony show. But if that's the only way I can get to people who have an open mind, that'll work. They always use me on the news as a last spot. Instead of talking about clowns at the end or a new dog show or something at the end of the news, they use this. Have you ever seen an engine run on Mountain Dew? People will stay tuned and watch the whole half-hour news they don't want to see just to see the end. But the fun part is the number of people with an open mind that see it going, wait a minute, the announcer is making a joke about, do you know how expensive Mountain Dew is? But if it'll run on that, it'll run on anything else you put in a fuel tank. The TV station's missing the boat. And they don't realize it. So somebody finally came to me with an idea that worked. A lot of the ideas that were brought to me didn't work. They do not want to take it serious. In Denver, many years ago, it was about 96, I walked into a Tesla conference there, and they had me wired up, really nice modern equipment, and I looked out into the audience, which was about 5 times this big, and I'm counting cameras. I see 13 cameras on me. I'm thinking, well, normally there's only 2 or 3. And they all say ABC except for 2 in the back. One says Discovery, and the other one is a cameraman I hired to film me. Now, I didn't realize the cameraman that I hired to film me was actually cutting copies and brought 2 friends with him that were helping him from BYU, and they were trying to figure out a way of stealing the technology, and later they bragged about it on YouTube. They came out and said, yeah, we followed him around. Paul's so dumb, he only thought it ran on little engines. No, that's all I talked about. I wasn't trying to promote the big diesels and the other big things I was working on. I didn't want to get shot. I sure the heck didn't want to tell people you could run on water. Not back then. But these guys thought they were pulling one. But when I was done filming 2.5 hours of special for ABC, I got the guy from ABC off to the side, and I said, why did you guys bring a semi out here, all these camera people and all this equipment, unless you're going to put me on TV? He said, insurance. What do you mean insurance? He said, we got enough footage on you to put together at least a 2-hour special. Now, if you can get past all the rest of the hurdles you have in front of you, you're not going to like us. You're probably not going to want to do an interview with us. But we've already got the show in a can, and we're going to show it. So if you're not willing to come to us at that point with a reasonable TV show, we'll just play what we have. I said, okay. Why do you say insurance? I mean, they had to cost somebody a lot of money. He said, it did. We were sent in from New York to film you. He said, but we're not quite sure if you're going to get past all the government hurdles. Well, the government hurdles are there for every inventor. At my booth, which I thought I had a copy of here, there is a sheet, which is the Government Secrecy Act. The Invention Secrecy Act of 1951 has very specific guidelines that if you have certain types of technology, they are to confiscate it. They are to confiscate it so that it does not get into the public's hands. They are not to give a patent. Well, I've had the pleasure of meeting a few of the people who worked in that department that told me that they had to take many inventors out. Some were quiet and they were intimidated. They just turned over their invention going, okay, I won't say anything. Others that had an attitude they had to take physical force with. Some, for legitimate reasons, they had to buy them off because there were too many people involved and they didn't want to have too many people die. I've lost a lot of friends that knew how to run on water. The government makes a lot of money. And the money they make is off oil, war, and drugs. I shouldn't say government, I should say the corporation that claims to represent us. But they're entitled to do what they want. They're corporations like any other business, but they're using our money to do it. And they've decided they don't want you to have clean air. They're using this to make a lot more big money. And carbon credits and all these great things. We can pay somebody for growing a tree in their yard in South America because it's giving extra oxygen and cleaning up the environment, and we can pollute more here. We're doing some trading. Why not clean up the mess? There was a gentleman, a writer, Uli, I can't think of his last name now, over in Germany. And when he first started checking into me, because he's writing a book about this type energy, and he wanted to dedicate a good part of that book to GEET and me, he heard about the torture I went through in Utah. And he said, did they really do these things to you? And I said, sure. Go to www.geetfriends.net. We've got tape recordings on there of the crooked attorneys, the judge. I mean, you can't find a more corrupt judge than one who's going to sit there and say, the U.S. Constitution doesn't apply in my courtroom. No, you do not have rights as a citizen or a human being here. I make up the rules as I go. And he said I was delusional because you can't run an engine on what I run an engine on. So what was really great was when John Fiala and a bunch of other people showed up at one of the hearings, and when they were asked, what are you doing here? We're not asking for any witnesses. They stood up and said, we're all here to demonstrate GEET technology. We have them working right here in the parking lot. The judge didn't like that. He said, we're not going to allow any demonstrations. The court has its position. Bailiff, get everybody's name, address, and phone number. They wanted to make sure that these witnesses didn't come back in. They weren't happy about it. So our system leaves a lot to be desired. People say, what kind of a place was it that you were held in? Well, it was supposed to be a state mental facility. I was held in a maximum security ward. I got to see people murdered right in front of me. And when I tried to report it to the FBI and local police, I was told, shut your mouth. You can't report it. We can't take a complaint on this property. It's not part of the United States. Oh. So certain corporations that run prisons and hospitals are exempt from the law. And they say, yeah, there's nothing we can do. If it happened on this property, it's not our problem. So I got an education way beyond what I had about energy and knowledge and health. But luckily, with everything they did to me, the worst that happened is my feet hurt a little bit because they're broken. They need repair. But I still walk on them. Somebody today was asking, well, how can you eat without teeth? Well, it was harder eating with them for 3.5 years after they drilled every tooth in my head out so they were all hollow. And you're biting down and all of a sudden another tooth breaks, another piece, so you're cutting your gum with broken pieces of teeth. And then they all get infected. So it was a little bad. Somehow I was able to block the pain and chuckle, and sometimes there were tears coming down my eyes as I was saying, no, I really don't want your painkiller. I'd rather have the pain than sign the patent over to you. You have a great day. I believe that many people would have gone through the same thing I did. But how many, I don't know. It was hard knowing that it would destroy a relationship over and over and over. I was very much afraid to even get together with Molly when I first met her because I was afraid that they'd come in and mess that relationship up. But for several years, she stood up very strong and she said, hey, I'm 10 foot tall and bulletproof. You can't knock me down. Well, that was really her feeling until they finally found her weak spot. Let's go after the 7-year-old granddaughter and tell her to say goodbye to Grandma. And when she heard it from her granddaughter that she may never get to see her again, that was it. She said, okay, I give up. I'm leaving. Our government will go to any extreme to stop good technology from getting out there. I put it out in such a way that it's educational for me, strictly educational. But that has its drawbacks. A couple of years ago when I was here, we had a student who came to my class and a couple of buddies come with him. He wanted to learn how to build GEET. Well, when you come to my class to learn how to build GEET, how do we get this to work? Okay. Well, he came in, built his first GEET, went home, but he didn't pay to be a dealer. He was a student. And students sign papers saying that they're not going to use the technology, publish it, or do anything else with it. But he stole pictures directly out of my training manuals that are copyrighted. And he even took the original picture that I put up on the internet in 1999, yet in the same pages, he says he invented this in 2007. And he was getting ready to get his piece of $100 million up front to fund the project for his patent. So far, we have found 8 people who have put their name on similar drawings claiming they invented it. They forget they signed non-compete agreements when they came to school, and they can't do this to begin with. But the Patent Office does have very specific penalties for people who try to steal your technology and claim they invented it. They're not nice.
Well, wonderful. They haven't seemed to have the success that they claim they would like to claim that they have either.
Now, I have to thank you as well as several others on assisting on that one. There have been many other people that have come in and decided they were going to take their fair share of what they felt I should get. Well, I guess they must have thought I was one greedy guy because I was asking 3% of the profits. So why pay Paul 3% when you can just steal it all? Just don't get caught. Now, the big upset for this show for me was getting a call last Sunday saying, I'm not coming down because the EPA, now let's see, can we get clarity here? There we go. The EPA has a section in the law that says it's voluntary. It is not mandatory. They cannot approve, endorse, or certify anything. It's against the law. Congress set them up because too many inventors wanted to go in front of Congress and demonstrate their technology and couldn't keep it to 5 or 10 minutes. They go on and on and on about everything else under the sun. When Congress only has so much time because they want to get home or go do what they're going to do, they want to hear something and get out. So they got tired of all these inventors wasting their time. Oh, I believe I got a perpetual motion machine that's going to do this forever and ever and ever. And my aunt did this, my uncle did. We just want to see it work. So they created, the EPA to analyze and report. That's it. You analyze it, you evaluate it, you report to us what your findings are, and then you're out of the picture. You're glorified reporters. You're not government agents with guns and badges. Well, I've had a few of these EPA guys show up as I toured the country, and they'd hand me their card. The best one was up there in Spokane, Washington. I was in the middle of a presentation to Dennis Weaver. Now, I kind of got a kick out of him. He was a pretty kick-back, low-key guy, nice low profile, and he wanted to see my engine running on mango juice. I said, we haven't tried mango juice. Have you got some handy? And he handed me his bottle. I said, no, you pour it in. So I opened the jar up and he poured the mango juice in. Right after I ran it for him, he's standing there looking at me going, it works. The guy from EPA comes up and hands me his card. And Dennis Weaver backed up and let him take over. And he said, I'm with EPA, I'm director, blah, blah. I said, well, yeah, I see that on the card. Can I help you? And he said, well, no, but I can help you. I said, really? How can you help me? He said, well, I can help you fill out the forms and we can get you government grants and blah, blah. I said, well, I don't want to be involved with the government. No, you don't understand. You must be involved with the government. And we have to fill out tons and tons of paperwork and blah, blah. I said, no, you don't understand. And I held this up. I said, you're a voluntary organization. I don't volunteer. I can clean up pollution right now. If I want to, I can tinkle in the tank. What do I need your permission for? You have no legal authority. You can't carry a gun. You can't carry a badge. And you don't have any right to tell me what to do if it's aftermarket. Here it is in black and white. It's dangerous. This is dangerous. That's what? He says, knowledge in the hands of people like you. And he reached over and grabbed his card, and right then Dennis Weaver's go, wait a minute. I've spent millions and millions of dollars getting EPA approvals. I said, you didn't have to spend a nickel. They didn't have the right to test you in the first place. Well, the poor guy from EPA took off running. And that man could move. He went right over tables, didn't have any problem. Dennis Weaver was running around some of the tables, but when he realized the EPA guy was getting away, he started jumping over the tables. And the EPA guy went out that back door and kept right on going. They have been BSing people for so long about, well, I have the legal right to do this. No, you don't. Show me where you have that right. Now, in California years ago, we had a woman there running the, CARB, and she started telling people that were buying my plans, well, those plans are bogus. That technology doesn't work. Mr. Pantone is a con man. After about the third or fourth call I got, I had enough. I called over there. I was not planning a trip to California at the time, but when I got Ruth Costa on the phone, I said, let me clarify something. I don't want to be in trouble for threatening any state agency or person. I'm taping the conversation because I'm going to come after you personally, severally, in a courtroom and take everything you own away from you if you ever say anything about me or my company again. Now, do you understand what I'm saying? So that sounds like a threat. I said, no, let me read the section of law in the federal statute. She said, no, never mind. I said, do you understand what I'm saying? She said, yes. I said, good, because I'm going to set my car to 80% water, and I'm driving to California. I dare you to show up. Here's a hotel I'm going to be staying at. Here's where I'm going to be demonstrating it, and I'm bringing about 50 friends with me. I'll see you there. She said, no, you won't. No one from the state will be there. But I'd had about all I could take from their threats, and they really did not want that confrontation. So even people who buy plans now have to fill out a license agreement that they're buying the plans, and they're agreeing that when they buy the plans, they're not going to publish it on the internet, they're not going to be making copies for their neighbors, and they're only going to put it on one piece of equipment, if that's what they bought the license for. Now, I don't mind if somebody's got 20 or 30 pieces of equipment or 50 pieces of equipment. If you want to come to school, we have a sheet at our booth. If you want to come to school as a student and pay the $3,500 and learn how to put it on all your own equipment for the rest of your life that is for you and your family, that's fine. Come to school. Learn it. We're not going to teach you just GEET. We're going to go through that book from cover to cover. We want you to understand that if you can't get gas, you have many, many options. Whether it's an aluminum can, whether it's a plastic bottle, whether it's a piece of wood, I don't care what you use for fuel. Maybe the government has some way of caring about that, but I don't. I just want you to know, if you come to my school and you want that knowledge, you're going to leave with it. But I also want to know you're going to be passing that knowledge on to your children and their children. Because some of the things I've discovered, I found out later, were in our science books 50 years ago and 60 years ago, but they got erased. A lot of people still don't even know who Nikola Tesla was. And there's times I just want to scream when I hear the stupidity from these people. Nikola who? Aren't they a band? Don't they make cars? It's pretty sad when a man can put his life into something to help mankind, and people still don't know who he is because you got some kid who wants to put his name on it and take all the work away. I think the least he could have done was give me credit. Now there's a couple of the thieves that actually have, and they've stolen the pictures, and they put in there the GEET gas and how it's created, but then they call it something else at the top. That's one of my favorite pictures, is the guy said he invented it, but in one of the pictures he forgot to white out the word GEET, and he left it GEET gas coming through the reactor. But he said, oh no, I didn't, oh that was Dennis Lee. I did not steal Paul Pantone's technology. But are you making GEET gas? Oh, yeah, I am. And it's a GEET reactor. Well, yeah. But it's not GEET. We call it T, T-E-E-G. We reverse the letters. It's completely backwards. And the judge looked over at him and said, you're not going to make any more or sell any more. We will have a hearing. That was in federal court in Salt Lake City. I've got better things to do with my money than to dump it down the court system and attorneys. I'd much rather be out helping people who need it. We have had a few people that have done things for us through the years that didn't even ask for credit for what they've done, and for them, I'm sincerely appreciative. Harvey here has helped me quite a bit, and he was there when I was just about ready to pull my hair out going, why am I doing this? But he was there, oh, come on, Paul, you can hang in there a little longer, don't worry about it. There were times my legs ached so bad because they wouldn't let me get my feet fixed after being broken. And he made sure that they had Thermacare used to send me. There's a cream that, it's like a deep heat. And I'd rub that in my ankles. Oh, I was able to walk down to the bathroom one more day at a time. And that lasted for about 3.5 months until my legs could not take anymore, and I went, bang! And you know what? It was easier crawling to the bathroom than walking on a broken leg. And the hospital still wouldn't do anything except give me a wheelchair. When they finally realized I couldn't walk anymore, they said, okay, give them a wheelchair. So we all go through what we believe we can to get to the other side. And some people give in a lot easier than others. But when one of my dealers called up the other day and said, I can't bring my car down, it would be against the law. What? Didn't you remember what we said in school? Well, the only way a dealer would have that feeling is if someone was threatened. Now, most of the dealers, if their families are threatened, are going to back up and say, hey, I can't take any further on this path. Well, don't create that problem. Don't put things up on the internet that's going to put you, me, and everybody else in danger. You don't want to go up there and say, we're going to run on water. Stan Myers made that mistake. Eugene Malov made that mistake, and several others. We don't want to make those mistakes. We want to be very politically correct. So our generators that we're putting out now are going to be going out from our shop in 2 to 3 weeks. I brought one of them here. It wasn't quite finished. I just grabbed what I had and came down because all the people were canceling. I figured I've got to have something here. So I brought one in that has been modified so that it could run on plastic vapors, wood, coal, gas, but we only sell it as a gas unit that is 50% more efficient than factory. Now, if it runs better than 50%, you can send it back to us. We'll detune it so that it only gets 50%. Okay. Now, if you have it hooked up to an HHO unit and you run out of gas, it'll probably continue to run for a while, but you should refill the gas because we don't encourage people to run on just HHO. I don't think that would be politically correct. And we want to be politically correct, so please be honest with your local establishment there and make sure you put gas in the gas tank. Now, you'd have to check with your local authorities to see if using vapor from a plastic bottle, which is made of gas, diesel, and kerosene, can be used as a fuel in your community. In my area, they don't have any zoning law, so they don't have a problem with it. But if you were to heat this up and take the vapor coming off of it and distill that vapor back down, you're going to have gas, diesel, and kerosene. So why not use that to run your engine? Yet in places like San Francisco, they've got mountains of plastic at the dump saying, plastic has no value. We can't believe what's on TV. It's pretty obvious they're going to put a lot of things out. Do we have any questions out there? I've seen a few hands fidgeting up. No, okay. We're going to go for about another 10 more minutes, then we're going to head out to the parking lot. We got a late start due to technical difficulties. The class that I teach in Oklahoma, we do it behind closed doors, and we teach what those people need for their community. Now, sometimes we have people from Canada, which is a very cold area. They need heat. They're not interested in the air conditioning as much as they are the heating. So instead of just teaching them GEET, we teach them how to heat their home with other things that they already have available. So it only costs them, in one case, a couple of homes and a barn up in Hudson Bay, northern Quebec. And they said it was costing them about $37 a year now to heat their home instead of $650 a month. There are some fuel oil people that really do not like me. They lost a lot of money not delivering fuel oil for the last year and a half. But I'm sorry about that. I hope they find some other way to earn a living. We have people in Central America who would very much like to have that waste product from the chimney called air conditioning. But when you build a furnace correctly, the bottom of the furnace maintains between 0 and 32 degrees in Fahrenheit. Well, that's adequate to give you a reasonable amount of air conditioning. We've had a lot of people get a hold of us throughout the Pacific Rim area that have said there's a lot of islands out there where the fuel has to be completely refined before it's brought in, and it's extremely expensive, where if they could just use 50 to 80% salt water as their fuel, it would make life a lot more miserable for the oil companies. We'd like to help them because they don't even need to bring that much fuel in if they already have tons and tons of plastic and other products. And when we tell them that one Toyota tire, 13-inch, when properly digested and smoldered, will run a 5 kW generator for about 32 hours. That means that tire is worth the equivalent of 32 gallons of gasoline. Yet the tire brand new is only 20 bucks. So why use it on the car as a tire? Go buy a new tire and burn it up. We have a lot of things that are energy right around us that we don't realize is energy. For one group of scientists that came in from Berlin, we took a 1-gallon jar, and I filled it up with about 1.5 inches of battery acid on the bottom, took the lid off, and I took just the aluminum can, I scratched it up with a key, crunched it down a little and dropped it in the jar, and screwed the lid on. And I pulled the vapor off it and ran it over to a generator. Well, it won't run in a regular engine, but running it through a GEET, it ran fine. Well, one aluminum can will run a generator, 5 kW, for about 5.5 hours. So that means one empty aluminum can equals 5.5 gallons of gas. So how much is an aluminum can worth in your neighborhood? No, we have waste problems because the people who are in control really don't know what they're doing. They don't realize how much waste product they have there that is very valuable. Does it make sense to understand all of these things if you can't use them? Yeah, it's good if you've got knowledge that you can pass on to your children and your grandchildren. It can backfire once in a while. We had one young boy over in Tooele, which is just west of Salt Lake City. He and his dad came in. The dad bought the plans to put it on a farm tractor. her tractor pull. And the little kid was bored listening to Daddy, so after the father was reading his plans, I got the kid off to the side. He was about 9 years old. And I said, here's an autograph set for you. This is how you put it on your go-kart. Well, the kid had overheard what I'd said to the dad, so a few days later, the mother neighbor. Again. But are we there? Are we there? Okay. I don't have to start over. No, I'm going to finish it up in a hurry. No. Okay.
This one is not a reset. Actually, the tape's still good, it's still running.
Okay.
It's just this thing.
Okay. Sound will be on it?
Good back there.
The sound will be fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this young boy is at a friend's house, and his friend and he are out riding their go-karts. They get back to the house to put some fuel in, and there's only a little bit left in the jug. So he tells his buddy, oh, go ahead, you use the gas. And he turns his back like this, and he fills his own tank up. The other boy's mom was in the kitchen looking out the window when he did it. And she panics. She picks up the phone and calls his mom up saying, you better get over here right now. Your son is going to wreck his go-kart. She says, what's he doing? Is he jumping it or hitting trees or what? No, he's peeing the gas tank. Oh, that'll be enough fuel to get him home. She had a conversation with her son about what you can and cannot do in public and how that could be criminal charges in some areas for doing that. We were warned of that in Colorado by a highway patrolman who was at one of my lectures there, and he raised his hand up. He was in uniform. He was taking his lunch break to listen to me. And I said yes, and he said, we just want to warn everybody out there that if we catch you doing that on the side of the road, we will give you a ticket. Now, if any of you guys get stuck in that position, we're going to laugh. Years later, I went on ABC News up in Seattle, Washington area, or Bellingham, and they started out, because I always change my appearance. Some of you may have seen me with wild, long hair and a full beard. Well, when I was up that area, I had the beard and the long hair, and they said, man, this looks like a scene from Back to the Future. I mean, he's putting all the stuff in his, the back of the car. Mr. Fusion, yeah. And they said, man, this is great. We're going to have a picture of you with your hair all wild. So I ruffled my hair up, and I'm pouring in the Coke, or Mountain Dew. And they said, folks, this isn't Back to the Future, this is the future. And then they started interviewing 2 or 3 scientists that showed up that were supposed to be there to discredit me. Now, I was surprised when they asked the first scientist, what do you think of this? He said, what do you mean, what do I think of it? I got 3 of them built already. The other guy says, yeah, I'm using one right now up at my cabin. And the TV announcers go, you mean this is already common knowledge? Well, among people in our group it is. Well, it still made the news. And they used that clip from Back to the Future to lead into it. Because of that little bit of a clip, all the other stations from ABC didn't pay attention to what was in the news clip. They just copied that 4-minute spot and put it up all over the country. Well, that night, Jay Leno starts his show out saying, hey, folks, there's this inventor up there in Utah. This guy is doing something really wild. He's peeing in the gas tank. I mean, that's great for the men, but the women are making a mess all over the side of the car. I was en route back to Salt Lake when I was hearing this from a friend on the phone. He said, Paul, Jay Leno just made a joke about you. So first thing I did when I got home is I wrote an email back to Jay Leno. I said, Jay, we always supply funnels and hoses for the ladies or guys like you that are too short to shake. He did not care for that comment for some reason, but he proceeded to call up William Shatner, and he told him that I had made this terrible comment to him. William Shatner happened to know who I was and had my phone number. So here I'd been driving all night long from Bellingham home, and I told my wife, I said, I don't care who calls, do not wake me up before noon. I went upstairs and crawled in bed. 9 o'clock she comes up and opens the drapes up, and she says, honey, you got a telephone call. And I looked at my watch and I said, no, I don't. And she says, yes, you do. William Shatner wants to talk to you. I said, no. You've done better ones than that. I'm not going to fall for it. do you really want me to go downstairs and tell him you don't want to talk to him? Well, you know, what are the chances of that? Well, if Jay Leno made jokes about me, it's possible. So I went downstairs, picked the phone up, and the minute he spoke, I knew who it was. It was like, oh, wow, this is an honor. And he says, I want to congratulate you on your invention and the comment you made to Jay. That was good. He said, I have seen your engine. And he said, it really upset the guy down here at the smog shop. I said, why? He said, well, we took him down one of your engines that's closed loop, so there's no exhaust. The exhaust goes back into the air intake. And the guy's walking around with his probe going, where do I stick this thing? Jay Leno immediately said, do you really want to know? All the rest of them were busting up. But the reality set in on this poor guy from the smog shop going, God, this will hurt my business. And Woody Harrelson's there. He said, oh, that'll hurt my business.
Check, do you got audio?
You've got no cam yet.
What's your business? Well, I sell oxygen bars. And as long as the air is polluted, you're going to buy oxygen.
Whoever said that. Let's recheck our out.
So we all have different reasons we want to see success.
That is the video.
For me, success isn't becoming the next Bill Gates. I wouldn't want to be the next
Is
Bill
there a toggle
Gates.
for remote?
I'm happy with a nice, quiet country life.
Maybe not be firing.
I'm happy having a nice home that's all paid for. I'd like to have a swimming pool with a nice waterfall so I can enjoy it.
We've got out.
But what I really enjoy the most is teaching.
Excellent.
And when I've got a classroom of people, it doesn't matter whether they're 6 or 80. Some of my favorite students were in their 90s. They're fun.
Great shot.
All of a sudden, you see somebody that you normally would look at and think, oh, they're over the hill. Bull. Get them excited. Give them something to do where they're happy with what they're doing, and all of a sudden, they're 30 years younger. One of the first guys I trained in Utah on how to build this for his own personal use when we got there was, I think, 82 or 84. But when he first came to me, he was all hunched over and just real slow moving. After he got that first engine running, he came back and told me how good it was running. I said, well, you know, I wish you were in California with me this next week. We're going to be doing some TV show. I'd love to be there. So he loaded it up in his car and drove to California. We made sure he was on ABC News. And this guy is just standing straight up, and he's pouring the juices and all in. He's happy as could be. Only time in his life he ever got publicity. Never got written up in a paper for anything or anything else. And he was really concerned that here he was going to be on TV, and he asked me, he said, well, are you sure you don't want to be? I said, Tal, I've had my share. It's your turn. You built it. It's your baby. So he got the pleasure of running that engine on pickle juice, and he had a ball doing it. So we do have a lot of fun with the technology, and we found the only way we can get the TV cameras on us sometimes in most cities is you got to do something entertaining. You want entertainment? I'll give you entertainment. But I'm going to slip in my message, and you may not see it if you're the TV station. We had the fun in Toronto years ago. We went up to the Toronto Health Conference, 2000. And when I got there, I said, where are the TV cameras? And he said, what TV cameras? In 23 years, they don't cover alternative health products. I said, well, let's change that. So I went over and I called all the local stations, and within 30 minutes, we had 4 TV stations there. Only one of them brought an anchor man. The other one just brought cameras. So we got 3 cameras here watching me run the engine, and I'm using coffee and pickle juice and having a lot of fun. One of them, the announcer is standing there, and he's holding the mic. He said, I don't believe what I'm looking at here. I mean, what the hell am I supposed to say? Well, as he starts swearing, the other 3 cameras are backing up and getting him in the picture. They're broadcasting live. The other guy's making an idiot of himself, and he starts mumbling stuff out. Nobody in their right mind's going to believe this crap. Well, he went on and on for about 3 or 4 minutes. Finally, his cell phone rings. And he said, oh, just a minute. He's looking at his cell phone. He said, oh, it's my boss. What? Oh. And all the other cameras are right on him. His boss called to tell him, you idiot, you're live on everybody else's station. Their apology was to invite me and my wife to come down and be on Breakfast America because it was their station that had done the blunder. They wanted to make up for this horrible comments. Well, bad publicity is good publicity if you enjoy it. And bad publicity to me is always good. So I go down to the studio, and they've got this. Normally you're expecting the ditzy blonde. Well, no, this was a brunette. And she is standing there at the table. They're ready to cut to me, and the producer's in his little soundproof room in the back. And the gal comes up, and she says, and what do we have here? What kind of a motor is this? Well, this is a Briggs & Stratton engine. I didn't want to say, dummy, it's not a motor, it's an engine, but I'm trying to explain, it's an engine. And today we're going to be pouring in Mountain Dew, a little bit of coffee, and 4 bags of sugar. And as I'm screwing the lid on, getting ready to start the engine, she said, well, don't all engines run on that? The producer's in the back room going like this. Cut, cut, cut. Well, the cameras are all just getting in on this, not even paying attention to him. I said, no, they all don't. But if you want to wreck your engine, that would definitely do it. But let me show you how clean this engine runs. And I pulled the rope, and the producer's back there just, oh, God, no, she didn't really say that. So after we run it for a little bit, and I hand her the Kleenex, and I shut the engine off, she says, oh, that smells sweet, fresh, like flowers. I mean, who the heck would want to smell flowers coming out of your tailpipe? Immediately, they went to a commercial, and the producer came out. He said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to ask for a third chance. We don't deserve it. I said, that was really fun. He says, yeah, our lines are all lit up. So you really never know what you're going to get when you do get an interview, whether it's going to be a good one or whether that particular announcer or reporter has a grudge, and maybe they had a friend who didn't like me and said, oh, that thing's a bad thing, it's horrible. So they're tainted. And other people say, no, I've seen it run, it works. Now, I'm not a businessman. I don't want to be a businessman. I'm setting up dealerships. So people can come in and get this out to the community at a grassroots level. We can't go public. We can't put it up on big billboards. But we can tell people, hey, you want to build one of these? Here's the plans. You want me to buy you a generator? I'll bring you a generator. You have to work it out to get it out there to mankind because GM, Ford, Chrysler, Mercedes, and the rest of them don't want it. I started to mention earlier that one of the writers from Germany, Uli, had asked me if he could write part of his book about me. I said yes. He said, first I have to validate you're real and your technology is real. So he started calling around to some of the scientists, so I give him names for it, and he got a lead to Mercedes-Benz. They'd been over 3 times to meet with me. After they bought a set of plans from me, they went back and put it on a car and said, we're not interested in working with you. They told him the reason was the first test they did was 38 miles to the gallon. They don't want anything that's more than 5% more efficient than last year's model. But he got it on tape. So he called me back and he said, Paul, everything you told me seems to be real. There are companies all over the place that have tested this. It's real. I said, yeah, but why aren't we doing it? I said, politics, dirty politics. There's too much money for governments to make on taxes. When I was asked if I could ship a couple engines to Africa, they said gas in Uganda was $19.80 a gallon at the time. And I said, sounds good. We sent one over and it got returned. Wouldn't pass customs. They recommended we get a hold of the State Department down there first so that we could arrange for the road tax that they wouldn't be receiving if they let our product in.
What?
So, yeah, we got some problems. If you go on YouTube or Yahoo News, pull up how many cars are banned from sales in the United States in the last year. There's about 18 different brands of cars that cannot be sold in America because they're too clean and they get too good a mileage. Sorry, you don't deserve that from the government. So we'd like to teach you all we can. Right now, we're going to go ahead and wrap up for in here, and we're going to take it outside. If John nods his head yes, that we have one camera ready to go out. Okay. John, will we be going out this way?
You thinking about going out this way?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Just,
go.
just to run some engines, and you can put it back on the tape unless you're live. Thank you all.
You know what? Raw materials, that's what they drilled me, worked me over all my life, and ruined my life. They did worse to you.
I'd be afraid to put all that stuff in my car. It might give the engine ulcers. Molly here?
No, Molly and I split up when the government told her she had to prosecute.
You forgot the government quote about any benefit from the government is incidental and accidental.
Yeah.
Paul, last year you were talking about the fact that there might be a dealer in Santa Fe.
Yeah,
Is there?
yeah, he's there.
I've got a Volkswagen Eurovan to get.
He'll probably be out here at the running of the engine. I don't see him right now, but
Paul, Stan Sauerwein from Calgary, Canada. Jim Malcolm here. We're a dealer that we worked out with you. We're here to see you. We'll talk to you today.
okay.
We'll
He
talk to you later.
vanished.
We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, you guys.
See what's out there.
Yeah, I had a phone number all for you from Canada,
Yeah.
and then you were going to come down. We never.
And Jim didn't want to do it right away, so
Oh.
that's why we're here to. So I'm here. And I'm going to be working with you to figure out when I can come down for the training.
Okay.
Sure is a pleasure to meet you. Great remarks. I can't believe there's 17 vehicles that they won't let into the.
Oh yeah. I'm going to leave this just a few minutes. Okay. You can put it over there. I'll be back for it. Thank you.
Convert any car to run this setup that you're talking about? Or
Piece of equipment on the planet that uses.
okay.
Hi. Filming for the video, for the DVDs.
Oh,
So play towards me.
Oh, okay.
Give it a second. Okay.
Are you ready to run one?
Okay, anytime you're ready.
Okay. Here we have Odie. He's going to demonstrate his engine. You want to put some gas, coffee? What would you like, sir? Just start with gas?
Start with gas, yes.
Okay. I'm going to back out of the way and give you the show.
I haven't started this motor in over a month, and hopefully I don't have a vacuum leak in the bubbler. Can you speak up so everybody can hear you, please? Yep.
Give me some more slack.
I was going to slip through your hand. Here goes.
I'm holding it so it doesn't fall.
Oh, that's a lot of gas.
So why don't you describe what you did?
Okay, I just added some gasoline to the bubbler, and we could add water or soda pop or other liquids in here, and it would probably still run. And I had modified this generator, so I had to take off a lot of this stuff, and part of that was the pull start. So I started with the drill.
Yeah, because it's in motion.
It smells flooded.
Got more cable, Craig.
Yeah, there's fuel going through there, but it's that's what you smell. Okay, well, I'm adjusting the intake. Well, this is the throttle, and this is the air intake. And I might have a vacuum leak in these cracked gaskets here, which will prevent it from running. It's been sitting for a month. And I think that might be my problem.
With the fuel prices being so high, why would you not run it on something else, or is fuel just more efficient than the other things like soda?
From what I know, the system has to be really fine-tuned, and everything has to be just right to run alternative fuels. And it doesn't seem to be starting. It's not really bubbling too much.
Check the spark.
Hold on, Sam.
Is there an on and off switch?
It's on.
I've done that before, I just...
No, it's not the spark. It's the. I think I have a vacuum leak here.
Oh, vacuum leak will stop you right now.
What's that?
The vacuum leak will stop you immediately.
You can see that I use RTV gasoline under here, and this kind of.
Let's see what you got there.
You see how it.
But right now, I still have soda pop, coffee, and sugar stuff in here. And we'll just fill an electric gas in it. Get it fired up. If I can open it.
RTV gas materials.
Yeah.
Sealing that down. Just try it the way it says.
Well, I haven't put fuel in this in a long time.
When did you run it last?
About 4 months ago.
Is that plug supposed to be open on the side of it?
What?
That's the exhaust.
That's your exhaust, yeah. On this one, pressure comes in here, bubbles down to the bottom of the bubbler, bubbles through the liquids, and then goes into the engine, up the center of the exhaust pipe, gets blended over here with some fresh air outside, then that air is mixed in right here to the engine. Exhaust comes out here, comes down, and straight out. Oh, this is going to be great. Oh, got plastic, yes. I am flooded. Yeah, there is now.
Water in the line.
Yeah.
We got a
It's flooded. It'll be about 5 minutes before I can start it. There's a third one more.
It's right behind you over here.
Huh? Got it right here. Okay, almost coming in right now. So then this will be right out low on fire.
Show me the video later.
Mike, you're on. Can you bring it this way?
You see the top gas are dragging over. ATV gas.
Start it first. Yeah. Okay. You make the adjustments. Like the horse. Okay. Got way too much fuel. When I opened it, I got splattered.
The universe doesn't use wire.
What are you running with? What are you going to run it on?
It's got a gas bypass in it.
Right.
So I'll start up on gas and get going, and then I'll strip it over the reactor, and then I'll put it in the reactor all the way.
What's the reactor contain?
like you to explain what it is you have and how it works? And what fuel are you using? This is natural regular gasoline right now. And I put it inside the tank here. This fuel in here. From, gas can. So what we've done here is we start from the motor, work towards through the GEET and back into the intake of the motor. So we picked up the exhaust over here with the flange, picks up the exhaust fumes. Exhaust fumes run through the GEET over here and out. So there's a pass from the exhaust. So the heat comes in from the bottom, comes up and out to the top, and the exhaust leaves there. Then on the other side of the motor where the carburetor is or the intake for the motor is, I built a vacuum diversion box. So the carburetor still attaches to the lawnmower, but there's two chambers in this box. One chamber picks up the fuel coming from the carburetor and feeds it down through this tube, up and then back down through the reactor. Now, the vacuum is picked up from the bottom of the box. The bottom chamber of the box has a vacuum. It picks up the vacuum from the motor, sucks the fuel basically from this point all the way through. So the fuel that is delivered from the top of the vacuum box from the carburetor is picked up from a vacuum that's created from this bottom tube, which is withdrawn from the intake of the motor. So what I put in here, on this one here, I put a bypass to heat up the motor with. When we first started, I have a gas bypass line. So a reactor bypass, that's when we turn off the reactor and turn on the gas bypass line. So the fuel comes through the carburetor, through the reaction vacuum dispersion box, pulled on through directly, comes through, and it bypasses the reactor altogether. This valve is shut down, shut off, so there's no fuel goes to the reactor. Then the fuel is sucked directly over and back through the bottom intake of the motor by the vacuum. So once I get it started and get it reasonably running smoothly, then I transfer the fuel, open up the valve which lets the fuel run up through the reactor. And when we first start out, I have fuel going both directions going up through the reactor and also going through this bypass loop. But once I get it running reasonably smooth, I'll shut down the bypass loop, and then we're running only on fuel that's running through the reactor. Where's the reactor here? The reactor is inside this here. This is the reaction chamber here in the front. That consists of two tubes, an inside tube and an outside tube. The outside tube, the space between the inside tube and the outside tube is where the exhaust fumes flow through, and they heat up the inner tube, which heats up the interior of the inside pipe. And then inside the inside pipe we have this rod, this reaction rod. And so this has to get to a certain temperature before there'll be a reaction. So like yesterday we had this running, I had a temperature of 290 when it was really warm. I had a temperature of 290 on the bottom and 295 on the top. But on the inside, where the reaction was taking place, in the middle of the rod, the temperature was like 340.
Get one of those infrared temperature.
Yeah, I just use this thing here.
Yeah.
So right now, I was just checking it, and it takes a while to heat up. But
What kind of metal do you use for the rod?
this particular rod here is made out of stainless.
Stainless
You
steel?
can use almost anything. You use glass, you can use mild steel. Stainless steel doesn't rust, so it's kind of a nice. Glass doesn't rust either. So now here at the bottom we have a 167 aluminum workshop. So it's really basically you have this heat, you have a heat exchange between the cold fuel coming in and it's driven through the circular motion over the rod, and taking this motion done in a vacuum because of the vacuum for some reason, which we're still trying to figure out, but I guess Paul would know. The fuel is broken down into components, flows down the end of the rod where it comes out into a blue ball of light, which is really the plasma.
So that's what generates the plasma.
Yeah, the plasma is inside this reaction chamber. There's a rod that slides up and down inside there. The fuel is sucked in, is sucked down from the vacuum of the motor. It's sucked down, and it goes around this rod, which has a bullet shape, and it spins around this rod real fast. As a matter of fact, the rod itself will spin up to 900 revolutions per minute. So I'm going to build a last one so that I can, for my own, own satisfaction, verify that we do have a rod that is suspending itself in the air and then spinning at 900 revolutions per minute. Because I would say, well, why would it do that? Why would it do that? But it just does. It's part of the reaction, and it causes the the elements to break down on a nuclear basis. They break down into like 4 or 5 different kinds of gases, and so it recombines the plasma. The plasma shoots up through the lines into the motor. The plasma will burn in a lot of different ways. It has an implosion and an explosion. There's all kinds of stuff about plasma that I still need to learn about.
That's how tornadoes can lift buildings and raise them up.
Exactly.
Well, you got them both going up drafts and down drafts. Implosion, explosion.
In this case here, there is no implosion, explosion. It's just burning because I have a spark plug that's igniting ready to shoot. It's like a gas.
The plasma energy in that chamber is produced by whatever you put in here, right?
Yeah, well, I have had this running on 80% water and 50% water, and I had it running on Coke and Pepsi and stuff. So pretty much any organic solution, but you have to have your specs just right in order for it to work right. Because like when I ran it on earlier on the Pepsi stuff, I clogged up the reaction rod, got full of carbon. So I wasn't getting a good reaction, I was getting a partial reaction. So I'm still,